Okay, we do have some breaking political news. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren is taking a big step towards challenging President Trump in 2020. CNN's MJ Lee is live in Boston with all of the breaking details. What's happening this morning?
Well, Allison, I did not think I would be saying this on the very last day of 2018, but welcome to 2020. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is announcing this morning that she is going to form a presidential exploratory committee. This all but confirms what has been widely speculated for a while now, that Senator Warren is going to run for president in 2020. And she is now the first major Democratic candidate to take official action and taking a step closer to a presidential campaign. She made the announcement just a minute ago in an email and a video message that went out to supporters. Here's a little snippet from that video message.
No matter where you live in America, and no matter where your family came from in the world, you deserve a path to opportunity. Because no matter what our differences, most of us want the same thing: to be able to work hard, play by the same set of rules, and take care of the people we love. That's the America I'm fighting for. And that's why today I'm launching an exploratory committee for president.
Now, this video message was 4.5 minutes long, and the themes that we see in this video are some of the very themes that led to Senator Warren's rise in national politics and her rise to national prominence. Issues like fighting economic inequality, taking on big banks and big corporations, and holding government accountable. Now we know that these themes that she has been talking about for so many years are going to be at the very foundation of her presidential campaign. And Allison, why am I standing outside in the Boston area this morning? That is because this is where her staffers have already been on the lookout for campaign office space. This is where we expect her headquarters to be located. We are also told that Warren has already spent some hundreds of hours talking on the phone with political leaders and activists in the early states, and she does expect to get traveling soon. And that all actually depends on what happens with the ongoing government shutdown that you have been talking about all morning. Now, obviously, you all know that the Democratic field in 2020 is expected to be very, very crowded, with Democrats starting to make similar announcements in the coming weeks and months. But you know that in politics, optics are so very important. And with the decision to make this announcement on December 31st of 2018, Senator Warren is going to reap whatever benefits may come by being the first Democrat out of the gate. Back to you, Erica.
All right, we'll take it. MJ, thank you. As you said, welcome to 2020 before we even hit 2019. Joining us now, former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent, former White House press secretary for President Clinton, Joe Lockhart, and CNN senior political reporter Nia Malika Henderson. And Charlie Dent, I want to start with you. As we look at this, it is not perhaps a shock that Elizabeth Warren is making this announcement today. The big question is, in terms of timing, is this a smart move for her?
Well, I can't really tell you whether it's a smart move for her or not, but I think this is a total gift to President Trump. This is the candidate that he clearly wants. My own view is I think Democrats want a new generation of leadership. That's always been my view. They're looking at somebody like a Kamala Harris or Beto O'Rourke or Cory Booker. I think that's where they want to go. But Elizabeth Warren also brings other baggage to the table as well. I've been critical of my own party at times for some of these nativist, isolationist, protectionist inclinations or social intolerance. But Elizabeth Warren brings to the table all the things that I think much of red state America dislikes. This war with industrial and agricultural America that too many Democrats are engaged with. I mean, she's very clear. She doesn't like the financial services industry. She doesn't like the pharmaceutical industry. She doesn't like the insurance industry. She doesn't like any of these industries where a lot of, frankly, my former constituents worked. And I think this is going to be a very big problem for Democrats if they nominate someone like her. There are going to be a lot of Trump-leery Republicans and independents, you know, who are looking for an alternative. They'll just say, but I can't do that. So I think this is a gift to Donald Trump.
Joe Lockhart, is that her biggest baggage, or is it something bigger? Not only the DNA video, which I think we can say did not land the way she wanted it to, but also the way she can get kind of scrappy with Donald Trump. It doesn't always work for her.
Yeah, listen, I think I agree with Charlie in the idea that I think Democrats are looking for a fresh face. When you're out of office, I think people are less interested in ideological purity and more interested in who can beat the guy in there. That's exponentially more important now with Donald Trump. You can't overestimate how much Democrats despise Donald Trump, what he stands for, who he is, and what he's done. So I think if you look at the initial skirmishing, and again, we're not starting earlier than anyone else started. This is right on time. There's candidates already in. There's a whole line of them getting ready to get in. But in the initial skirmishing, my biggest fear was this was going to somehow become an ideological purity test. And I think, you know, with Elizabeth Warren and with Bernie Sanders, there hasn't been the enthusiasm that you might expect. And you look at, you know, someone like Beto O'Rourke, who hasn't even decided if he's getting in, look at the viral ad he put out. There's real excitement around that. So I think the biggest thing is you look at the midterms, people want fresh faces, they want women, they want people of color. The second thing is the big unknown in this race is Joe Biden. If he gets in, it changes the dynamic of the race.
He's none of those things, by the way, that you just ticked off.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's none of those things, but there is a reservoir of goodwill for Joe Biden in the party that no one else has, and a sense that he could do the job from day one. If he gets out of the race, it is a free-for-all, but I do think it doesn't favor the people who we've been talking about for a long time.
As we look at, you bring up Joe Biden, so CNN's Iowa polling of likely caucus goers, you look at where Joe Biden sits, he is at the top of the heap there, with 32% of respondents, likely caucus goers, saying, yes, he's our first choice. Nia, as we look at this, and you know, everything that we've gamed out so far, again, not a shock that Elizabeth Warren is making this announcement, but there is some surprise to the timing. And how much of that, Nia, is her trying to get out ahead of the rest of the folks to try to make a little noise?
I think that's everything. I think Joe is also right that if you look back at past announcements, they're about or now. If you look back at Bill Richardson, for instance, I think he was like in January of 2007. Obama was like in February of 2007. So it's not that anything is happening super early this time. But if you're Elizabeth Warren, you're clearly looking at a lot of these polls, which haven't been good news for her. You saw Biden leading in Iowa, for instance. That should be Elizabeth Warren country in many ways, because she's the populist, she's the firebrand, she's certainly well known. She's probably got a really high name ID, certainly had more name ID than Beto O'Rourke did if you look back a year ago, but he has really shot to the top of the heap there. And you see in those early polls, you also see in a lot of early polls that, as Joe said, people want someone new. There was a poll out that showed 6 in 10 Democrats, independent sort of leaning Democrats, want someone new. That poll also showed that Elizabeth Warren didn't do too well in terms of whether or not people thought she should run or thought she shouldn't run. It was essentially split down the middle. What's interesting about this ad that she's put out, this video, the way she's doing it with the Twitter and on, you know, a video, sort of a social media push. Also, if you look at the people in that ad, right, she knows that the Democratic Party is essentially a rainbow coalition. She's there apparently marching in what looks like an LGBT parade or something like that. Lots of black and brown faces, particularly black women in that ad. That is the path to the Democratic nomination that we've seen. Obama obviously chart in 2008. Clinton did it also in 2016. It didn't end up netting her the nomination or the presidency, obviously. But also, if you just look more broadly at the successful Democratic presidents, the last 3 have been either black or Southern, right? I mean, if you think about Jimmy Carter, obviously from Georgia, a state with a lot of African Americans. You think about President Clinton, also, he's a Southerner in a state with a fair amount of African Americans there as well. And then, of course, Obama himself, black from a state with a lot of African Americans. So I think if you're a Democrat, you've got to figure out how do you get a multiracial coalition that's really likely going to be powered by African Americans, particularly African American women in those big southern states like Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, and Mississippi, but also how you can somehow get white voters as well. Maybe not working class white voters. Those seem to be voters that Trump has a lock on. But if you can get some of those suburban white women who did vote for Democrats, at least in 2018, then you've got something of a winning coalition, both in the primary and then, if you're a Democrat, perhaps in the final matchup against Trump as well.